Bear with us, everybody. We're waiting for Tony's thunder.
Spooky sound effects, everyone.
That was
Hello
it was a
and
bit
welcome
rubbish.
to a Let's Drone Out episode 466, brought to you on the evening of Thursday, the 1st of August. Thunder and lightning. Very, very frightening. Joined today by everyone's favourite curry kitten,
Hello.
the Ton Star, Tony,
Bonjour.
and our Lord and Overlord, Frank. Good evening.
Evening.
How's everyone been?
Hot.
Been enjoying
sweaty.
sunshine. We've had
Exactly.
summer. That was summer. It is ending outside Tony's window
Now
right
it's just
now.
rain and thunder.
It's because I got the aircon out again today.
What did you
You
do that
cursed
for?
it.
You scared it off.
I know. I'm going to charge and take it to Africa and places that need water. just turn up with it and turn it on, and it'll rain. I think this is just a little nice thunder.
Did anyone go out and fly, or were you too
I
busy
did.
lying in sun and or consuming
Wow,
beer?
look.
Someone has. Several people have. Fantastic.
More than two people. And you tried, didn't you? But then your radio broke
I
in a
did
weird
manage
way.
one pack, but one pack took like 2 hours of work, so we'll get there later. I'll let you guys explain what you've been up to.
Go on, Curry. You had your hand up.
Well, I was due to go out a week and a half ago, but then I was busy having COVID, which is what Jack's got this week, which is why he's not here. So I managed to go out yesterday and literally doing the Mad Dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun, because I just went out and sat in the middle of a field in the sun whilst cows terrorized me. And I flew three things. I was flying a 5-inch quad with Walk Snail in, because Walk Snail asked me to make a video showing what race mode is. And if you don't know, race mode on Walk Snail puts it in 540p and should conform to the actual race band channels. And I flew that and it looked a bit crap, quite honestly, because when if you fly Walk Snail, if you use focus mode, if the signal gets dodgy, it's similar to DJI. On the edges, you get pixelation, and it's good in the middle. On race mode, it seems like the entire image goes pixely. So suddenly you're flying along, and then it's like a spectrum. For old people, that's not very high resolution. And the other idea is it's supposed to keep the latency very, very similar. So the obviously racers would know suddenly if the latency changed. And it was mostly 24, 25 milliseconds. But when I went like round a tree, because I was trying to sort of simulate, extreme conditions and stuff. So I had like 3 trees in a line. And when I did that, apart from it going all squiddly on the resolution, it did fly out to sort of 35 milliseconds. Interestingly, when I tried it in its normal mode, focus mode worked much better, where it just pixelated the ends and gave me the thing. And it didn't go out as much. But of course, the problem with going in normal mode is it takes up 2 lots of bandwidth, so it wouldn't play nicely with.
So it's less bandwidth
With
than
racing
the
anyway.
25 megabit mode. It's even less than 25.
What is less than 25? Sorry.
The race mode, because the normal mode, you've got like a 25 megabit and you've got a 50 megabit, and then this.
Oh, not that. It's just the I was talking about the frequency is much wider, isn't it?
Yeah.
In normal mode.
That's directly related to the megabit. So the bandwidth is literally the width of the frequency band, right?
Oh yeah, but even in the low bandwidth model, what is it? The normal rather than the high, it's still wider than one channel, isn't it?
Is it still transmitting from the goggles? Because that was another thing that race people really hated, the fact that there was actually interference coming off the goggles as well as the quad.
That's interesting. I presume so. I presume it is, though I'm not completely sure. I did want to know if this was accepted. So I did have a quick chat with Cerberus about this one as a race director to see if he knew anything about it. And he said right now it's not. We don't allow walks now because it doesn't play nicely with others and it doesn't work on the race timing.
Yeah,
and I explained what this one does, and he's like, "Oh, that's interesting. It seems like they've done something. It's like we'd try it out if someone brought it along." But I think the point he made, which is quite a good one, is what walks now should be doing, although they're having a go at it, is perhaps talking to people that run the races and say, what do you need? And then develop it based around that. So yeah, that was that one. And then I flew, I did this flight with this Ratel Pro camera, which lasted a minute because I was like, I don't like this lens. It was really narrow, and then I couldn't take the lens out to swap it. A really interesting video of me going, "Oh, it won't come out," like this, which
at least
is
you didn't
not really
break
exciting
it.
to watch.
Because that was always a bit terrifying with those tiny little plastic parts, and those focus rings don't take a lot of effort to snap in half, do they?
It was a bit annoying because as I was flying around, I was like, this doesn't quite look focused. So I wanted to have a go at it anyway. And then I couldn't move it. And I brought another lens with me because I tried it in the house. And I'm like, this looks a bit narrow to me. It's apparently 125 degrees. And I think the lenses we generally use are like 150 to 165 degrees. And it was really hard to describe it because when you look at the DVR, it doesn't look too bad. But when you make just a little turn, it seems like it's really twitchy. It moves too much.
Because this isn't the first Ratel that Cadex have made. Like it's number, I think it's called a Ratel 2. There's been
there was a Ratel, a baby Ratel, a Ratel 2, and this is like at least the third one. And the previous ones
for like 4 years at this point. So
they had 1.8 mil, 1.66 mil lenses. Perfect. Yeah. It was like my favorite camera, and this one is just like I can't use this. I can't fly with it.
That's weird.
And then we had the fun with the tricopter, the 12-year-old tricopter, which I decided to try and acro, and Stephen has remorsefully taken the piss out of me for. It's like, what do you mean? You went to 50 meters and tried to do a roll?
And I'm like, right, when? And he just keeps climbing like, I don't think we're quite high enough for acro. And he must have got up to like 30 meters before he was like, right, now we can roll this. So, okay, don't have a lot of faith in that.
I'm glad I had that much because I don't know what it was. Firstly, I think we showed the video the other week ago about like me trying it in the garden on its standard tune, which looked like, and then I basically set all the PIDs to practically 0, and it was like, oh, this is okay. So I was a little bit worried that it might be a bit sloppy, and yeah, the yaw had this mind of its own. So I tried to do an inverted yaw spin. So I literally flipped it over and then did this with my yaw stick, and it just sat there upside down and didn't move an inch. I was like, well, this is peculiar. What's going on there? And then at
you're
some
probably
point,
the only person to have tried to do inverted yaw spin on a tricopter in beta flight for like 5 years.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's possibly not that tricopters can't do acro. It's just when you do it, you'd make them a little bit more solid. Yeah. Just this tricopter, where is it?
Is it a wooden one?
It's the wooden one with the massive arms. Oh, and these are so loose.
Wooden arms as well. I know that probably makes it even.
Oh, I had to put zip ties around here because I tried it, and you just wobble it a bit, and it just falls down. But what happened is suddenly it was like you're in like this.
It's still in one piece after outgrowing it. To be fair,
it basically turned into a helicopter blade, whereas suddenly I'm looking through the goggles, and all I can see is, and this servo completely stripped and was upside down like that on the ground. So I think basically it just got stuck at 90 degrees and was going like that. So this thing was just like, and it came down beautifully. It's like a brilliant helicopter emergency landing where it just like went down like that. But yeah, the only thing that's broken is the
opposite
servo.
Of auto rotation. Like
it's
what that is.
It was weird, but that was a lot of fun. Stephen he's not understanding the fun relevance of trying to fly something that doesn't want to fly, but it is fun.
I mean,
because you like, if you fly a quad, you can just do this and you can take your hands off the controls and it'll carry on. Not with a tricopter, you're like, Jesus, what? Oh my God, what's like?
Yeah, it just feels like I'm going to go out for a nice walk, but first I'm going to tie my shoelaces together. I can't quite get myself in that mindset.
It's all about the challenge. Can I still walk with no legs? That sort of thing.
Backwards racing.
It was good. It was very hot though. It's far too hot to be outside.
I was going to say something about the earlier ones. Before the Ratel. What did you have before the Ratel one? The first one.
Oh, the walk snail.
Oh, the
thing.
walk snail, yeah. I was
The
going
walk
to say it'd
snail
be
in race
interesting
mode.
if we could get like that flying with one of those race DVR systems that Cerberus has to see if it was putting out any interference on the other channels, because it's quite hard just with, you know, one person in isolation.
Yeah, I can't really tell. I mean, I have to take their word for it that it's within the bandwidth of that single channel, and you know, I even tried flying at 25 milliwatts, as that was a struggle, especially through the trees. And like you said, it presumably still transmits as well, which is an interesting thing. But I don't think people are really going to get behind it unless someone's like they've gone
Cadex need
super.
to talk to people. I mean, it'd be good if we
Sorry?
had Andy RC on, because I think he was quite cozy with Cadex at one point, but they just seem to really be in isolation to the community. Maybe they talk a lot more to people in China, but
Maybe. I mean, they do a lot better than DJI, obviously. But
yeah,
the thing
I mean,
is, the
there's
540p,
a lot.
it looked kind of better than analog, but it looked kind of like sparkly. You know, like when there's no anti-aliasing and stuff, and all the edges look like they're all jagged and things. It looked a bit like that, so it wasn't particularly good to fly on. I'm thinking, you know what? I think if I flew analog, I'd have probably a better picture here, and I knew my latency would be exactly the same. So I honestly I can't really see it catching on
Well,
in
it
its
has got
present
that
form.
most of a high refresh rate. You get the like 100 frames a second, which some race pilots say makes all the difference. And I guess if you're a really, really great pilot, the fact that you have more frames of image to tell where you are when you're turning really, really fast, that probably
Yeah, but in that also lies the problem, because one thing race directors want to do is put their footage up to stream or on a screen and stuff, and it's very difficult to capture 100 frames per second from walk snail, because like capture devices just don't do it.
Well,
I
there's
had
a
a terrible
one-to-one.
time.
You have a broadcast mode, but it's really sketchy, isn't it? It's not broadcasting natively. You have to enter a special broadcast mode and like pair with other people's goggles, don't you, to do broadcast?
Yeah,
But it
so
sounds like it could do the job, like for people that mostly are just flying freestyle, or, you know, just out by themselves, and then once a year go to a race meet and want to join in. Like this maybe could allow them to do that. Like that's
Yeah.
the use case I see. This sort of
Yeah.
is ticking that box, so that if someone is thinking about getting into, I mean, like I'm in that position basically of like I run analog because it's the only thing that I can run everywhere that I want to play. Like if there was a digital system that was compatible with all the different groups that I would like to fly with, then I would go for it. And walk snail is kind of the closest to that. If it did work at a race meet, then that would kind of solve that problem. But like you said, or like Serb said, like the biggest thing is compatibility with the timing systems, and if they're at least going by the same frequencies, that's a help. And then the other thing is having the fixed power output. I know DJI is a bit more.
I think that's
dynamic.
what this race
I don't know
mode
about-
is meant to be doing. That locks the power output, which helps with the timing gates, obviously.
It doesn't lock it. You can use race mode in 500 milliwatts, but you can put it down to 25 milliwatts, and presumably it should stay there. I didn't measure the power myself. I was sort of taking their word for it. And I suppose it's like if you fly with a bunch of other people and you all want to get in the air together, it gives you the option to do that on a sort of friendlier basis rather than whacking your friends out of the sky. So yeah, maybe it'll work, but hopefully they'll tie up with the community a little bit more, and perhaps they'll bring out some hardware to say, oh, this is a box that will, gather the signals from other people racing, and you'll be able to stream it properly, because right now it's a bit of a pain.
Hopefully they'll just talk to someone, really. I think that's the first step. There needs to be someone who's working with them in the race community so they know what the actual requirements are, because when people guess at what the requirements are, it's never going to match up, is it?
Yeah, well, fingers are crossed.
Tony, Frank, what have you guys been up to?
Well, I went out flying on Sunday. I maidened an eBay special.
Oh yeah,
a Flywoo LR4, which is something I've been looking at for years, and then saw it going very
Yeah.
cheaply on eBay, and I was like, I will buy one of those.
That was a pre-COVID one. That's one of the 4-inches. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they had this like 1404 motors with 4-inch props, long range. Nice.
Yeah.
And what sort of flight times do you get on there? Because that's supposed to be the thing, isn't it? It's supposed to be able to get in the
Do you
air
have
for a long time.
lithium-ions on it?
Yeah. So I put on the closest batteries I had to what was intended for it. So I was running 4S 650 milliamp hour lipos, and I ran it for 10 minutes, and flew it for 10 minutes, chasing around some fixed wing stuff, and still had 3.8 volts when I landed. So
still had 3.8 after 10 minutes.
Yeah,
that's not bad, is it?
So yeah, probably another 5 minutes at least.
Yeah, exactly. So it's pretty convenient. I do like flying it, but I made a mistake setting it up in beta flight, and I couldn't get it. Well, so I did have acro mode available to me, but when I went into acro mode, it would also go into head free mode, which it took me a while to figure out what was going on.
How did you? That's not a default. Was that the previous owner putting something crazy?
No, that was me. I at some point just setting up modes must have just hit the wrong thing at some point. But yeah, so it took me a while to work out what was going on, because I'd take off and fly and be fine for a bit, and then turn 90 degrees, and all of a sudden it's not doing what I'm telling it to do, and just acting very strangely, and then I'll crash. I go and get it back, and so fly it line of sight and just keep it tail in, because flying a tiny quad line of sight, I'm keeping it tail in, and it's like it's behaving perfectly normally. I don't understand what the problem is, and then I stick the goggles on. I'm falling out the sky again. What's going on?
Well, I'm glad you found it, and the quad didn't get damaged before you figured out what the problem was.
It seems fairly resilient, but it was also long grass. I was up on the Mount in Guildford, and from there we could see Woking. We could see.
Is that where people fly all the unpowered gliders from? I used to live around there.
I haven't seen any.
Okay, maybe
they might do. But we could see the Shard in central London. We could see the Arch of Wembley Stadium in North London, and so this is like 50 kilometers away. We could see with the naked eye.
Don't give people ideas.
Wow.
And you're like, oh, I've got a long flight time.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
express RS. I wonder.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder how far this could go.
I'm keeping it in line of sight. Easy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
With a matey boy and a giant telescope over there. We'll pretend we didn't read that paragraph. It's fine.
Yeah. It was a good day. Yeah, I can confirm the LR4 is very good at chasing stuff as well.
Yeah, I've got some beautiful footage of one of those. I used to have a little. It was something very similar to that. I mean, there's a whole bunch of frames that came out, 4-inch spindly arms, 1404 motors, and they were great for just staying in the air for a while and be able to carry like a stripped down action cam. So I've got some really nice footage where I was able to just send it for half a kilometer or something and do some really nice swooping scenic flying with it. So I went flying today, but I thought instead of just grabbing my little T-light, which I keep kind of hung on a hook for doing a bit of simulator work and just having something to go, I was like, let's get the Boxer out. I've got a nice Boxer with fancy gimbals, and I don't use it much because it's just a little bit bigger and the T-light's always right there on the hook. So I get it out. I'm like, okay, well, power it on. Nothing doing. Okay. Plug it in, DFU mode, use HTX Buddy, the web app, flash it to the latest firmware. Maybe it had a bad flash, power on again, nothing. Okay. Right, now can I enter bootloader mode? Okay, push trim switches together, power on. I can get into bootloader. Oh, well, that's a relief. The screen's not broken and everything's basically working because the bootloader is just another program that executes before the main firmware. So I flashed from bootloader mode thinking maybe I flashed it wrong. Still can't power on. Like I press down the power button, I get the little, what's it called? The little LEDs going from side to side, and then just nothing happens. Oh, my camera's decided to bite it as well. Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Get back there. Yeah, so after a while, I just jump on the EdgeTX forum and say, hey, you guys, what about this radio? What's going on? And I had a very helpful conversation with a maintainer of EdgeTX, like 3JDC, whatever he is, the guy who's been working on that and OpenTX since forever. And eventually he suggested, after I proved to him that I wasn't A, an idiot, and B, really wasn't an idiot, and C, yeah, absolutely not an idiot. I'd done all the usual precursor checks, and he suggested, well, what about the battery? And I'm like, yeah, the battery is charged, got it to like 4 volts, it's fine. No, the RTC battery. And I'm like, why would that make a difference? Try taking it out. And I'm like, I can't get it through the battery bay, so grab a screwdriver. Have to open the box for the first time. Easier than most because only 4 screws instead of like 12 that the TX16 seems to have. And pry the battery out, breaking the battery holder in the process. Glue the battery holder back together, put the radio back together. And sure enough, it starts up fine. It turns out if you have an RTC battery in and it goes completely flat, it doesn't just warn. It actually like shorts something and stops the radio from booting, which is highly annoying.
Exciting,
And,
that is not expected behavior.
That is the worst behavior. I'd say you should just have a warning and not fail, and there should be maybe one small passive component that stops everything from going tits up if there's a dead battery in there.
Some kind of diode.
Quite annoying.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a weird one because I don't know about you guys. I've had this like warning message on my old Tyrannuses multiple times about like RTC battery low when it's actually like completely gone, and I ended up replacing them because it was such a pain. So you didn't get any prior warning that it was low or anything. It just suddenly stopped.
It had been in the case for like 4 months, and I think it just went straight past the warnings to dead. But from now on, I've learned my lesson, and I'm never going to put a battery in there because I don't do.
How do you know what the time is?
Do autonomous flights. I mean, I've got a watch and a phone, both of which tell me the time. So what's the point of my radio telling me the time? It's still able to run a timer for 5 minutes. It just doesn't know exactly what the absolute time is. It can still do relative time. That's fine.
If it really needed the time, it would have a GPS unit on it, right?
Yeah. If you really need accurate time, just get a GPS. That is the sensible approach, rather than rely on what is effectively a bad digital wristwatch embedded into the guts of it. I mean, those things are not accurate anyway. They're like, I've dealt with them on computer systems, and they're helpers, but they're not accurate enough to really be useful for anything that needs accuracy. So I don't know why it's in there. Presumably someone has a bee in their bonnet out there in the community and really likes RTC batteries, and that's why they're in there. But given that a completely flat one can stop your radio booting, I think unless you're using it, the safest thing is just to take it out and never put a battery in there, because the best that will happen is you have one other time source, which is going to be the second or third clock in the vicinity of yourself. And the worst is it stops your radio booting, and some radios you need to like unscrew the damn thing to make it boot again by taking the battery out. Anywho.
Very
Noted.
It's a weird one.
Yeah.
My news this week is DJI Neo.
Ooh, the new
one.
tiny one. Is it
So you've heard
Frank's
something
heard of it as well. I
sub
hadn't heard.
250 something?
135 grams.
Wow, that is very sub 250.
4K AI subject tracking. It's exactly what I want. You know what I was saying? I want a Palm flight. Well, DJI apparently, we don't know if this is true or not yet, but it's been, someone's seen it in, where did they see it? In America somewhere. What's the
Walmart.
Walmart. Yeah. 135 grams, light and portable, Palm takeoff and landing, AI subject tracking, quick shots, multiple control options, 4K ultra stabilized video, full coverage of the propeller guards. There is pictures of it where it comes with a controller. So I'm wondering whether it's going to do the Palm takeoff bit, and then you can maybe fly it as well from your phone and do do some other bits. I don't know.
Maybe it does both, because I've had them before where actually most of them you can do some sort of gesture control, can't you, to make it do stuff rather than actually fly it.
Yeah, this is basically what I want. That's not the picture.
That looks like an avatar.
That is a picture.
Yeah, it's not the
That's the
one
one I'm looking
we
at
want.
here from Tech Radar.
If you type in DJI Neo, there's stuff comes up on it. There's pictures of it on X. It does look like it's real. And I'm hoping it is, because this is exactly what I want. And it's been put on Walmart at $320.
Yeah, there's a couple of different pictures. There's a what looks like a render that is on Tech Radar, and everyone else has something that's a little bit different.
Yeah, and there's box.
Yeah, it's got those grills on the prop cards.
Yeah, see, that looks like it could be real.
Well, apparently there's an FCC listing, which means that they're going to actually import it into the US. So
yeah, so this is exactly what I want. I want something like this to film me while I'm riding my bike at the White Cliffs or whatever, over the cliffs. I don't got to worry about it. I can just ride, get filmed, talk to the mic, camping stuff, follow me, maybe even airsoft. Follow me around at airsoft.
Just a little drone above where Tony is all the time. Just to give
there he is.
Just find the drone and shoot like 6 foot under that.
It would have to be moving pretty quick though, because I run around quite a lot. But
so off the box there, we've got 135 grams, palm takeoff and landing, AI subject tracking and quick shots, multiple control options, 4K video, full coverage prop cards.
I hope it's a real thing, and I hope it comes out very soon. I will probably, if that is a real thing, I'll purchase it as soon as it's out, because it's exactly what I want, and it's doing the 4K. And if it's probably going to be cheaper than the other one that is out.
As long as you don't have to buy the thing and then buy the controller separately, because DJI seem to be intent on forcing people to buy a new controller with every single
doing that. Even though I've got a DJI controller for my Mini 2. Will it be compatible?
Because the last one, the Avata, it by default came with the sex toy dildo controller thing, and then you had to buy the joystick separately.
Yeah, must have bit jack like that one, didn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping it's real, because it'd be 135 grams. You could fly that indoors. You could.
I mean, you probably would have to fly it indoors, because if someone farts in its direction, it's going to wobble.
Well, that is a worry, that if it's a bit windy. Mind you, I've seen DJI stuff like that in wind and still film so good. So I don't know. Hopefully it's a real thing. I will purchase that just for doing bits and bobs. That was my news story. Bye. I'm going now.
Yeah. Bye.
Because I haven't flown at all. So
we should.
That looks like a cool toy, especially for indoor work.
Yeah.
We should mention that we're going to be on another show at some point, right?
Yeah, I got told it was 6 a.m.
I haven't been tracking that, so feel free to let everyone know. I have no idea what's going
on. So on at some point we're doing some filming with, another online video call, recording an episode with another show.
Oh, here we are, 6 p.m. Sunday for us.
Yeah.
10 a.m. Sunday Pacific time, 1 p.m. Sunday Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in Boston or that side of the world, 1 p.m. San Francisco, Los Angeles, that side, 10 a.m. Us, UK, the British Empire, 6 p.m.
Well, that's better than 6 a.m.
So it's, although
it's being so accommodating.
We're recording it this Sunday, but it's called FPV or World Tuesdays. So
Not live then.
it'll be recorded live.
I like that.
Yeah,
We've
I've
all-
posted a link
Everyone's
in
been
the
invited, have they?
yeah, I posted a link in the chat to the YouTube live recording.
Yeah. Off access.
Off access. That's what I was trying to remember.
Just a message, Tony. Jack wants you there. He wants you early, Tony.
6 a.m. Okay. I'll sit around and wait, Jack. I've got my airsoft.
Nothing else to do.
Airsoft Sundays. Be on the field at 10. Get there at 9.
Yeah, we've planned it to be your bath time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have broadcast live from the bath once,
Make
which
it twice.
no doubt is in the
Still floating around the internet
yes,
somewhere.
somewhere.
Slowly.
On his OnlyFans.
Bad news is.
I do apologise.
Yeah.
Oh, what else happened this week then? Looks like
Well, on the last show, I mentioned that there was going to be a drone opening the Farnborough Air Show last Friday, and that was broadcast live on YouTube. It was, I would call it underwhelming. It was not a very dynamic opening to an air show.
was it just someone with a Mavic who climbed slowly to about 100 foot and stayed there?
So it's the Phoenix Wings. I can't remember the name of the actual aircraft, but the company that make it is called Phoenix Wings. It was in the branding of Skyfarer, which is another company, I think. And it's like a fixed wing drone with, tilting rotors as well as
Like a VTOL.
6. Yeah, so it's a VTOL
Right.
with 6 lifting propellers and 4 forward propulsion propellers.
Did they do some macro with it and thrash it around a bit?
No, they took off vertically, hovered it around a bit, maneuvered it down the runway in hover mode,
How
maneuvered
big
it
was
back,
it?
and landed it. It was not
wow.
very exciting.
So they did the test to make sure they configure the software correctly, but then what did they do on the actual flight?
As far as I could tell, that was the extent of the display. It was.
That sounds like a hover test, Frank.
Yeah.
You just described a hover test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What you do before you take it flying.
Yeah.
Especially
How
when.
big was it, Frank? Was it big enough?
Pretty big. Yeah. It was big.
X-class big.
Oh yeah. And lots of like shiny, smooth fiberglassy type fuselage and stuff. It looked like a very, very glossy thing. But when the challenging bit of a VTOL is the transition to and from forward flight, the fact that they only ever showed it in hover mode leads me to question how
does it work.
ironed out it really is. Yeah.
So with a VTOL, do you try and give yourself a bit of forward momentum in hover mode so you've got a small amount of lift, or do you just like get some height, tilt the rotors, and just punch it?
Has anyone successfully, like, reliably been able to transition from hover to?
I mean, I'm sure Painless has done a bunch of them, but
he's sworn off them because he says they're so unreliable in their.
Well, people keep selling them with the basis that the hardware is cool, but not actually writing software for them. I think that was a lot of people's complaints.
That is very much the challenge, right?
Oh, what do we have here, Curry?
As if we segue over. This thing, I have to thank Caroline for this, because they contacted Caroline to say, did you want to review this? And she says, no, I don't do reviews. Talk to that Curry Kitten guy. That was in December. And they've been making this thing ever since. Swan make these commercial VTOL products. And they're like, oh, it's not ready yet. It's not ready yet. And I was like, okay, no, don't worry. Wait until it's done. Wait until you've got your testing done. And then send it to me. So they sent it to me this week. And I sort of opened the box. And it's got, bits in there. And it's like, doesn't seem to be any documentation or anything. And then the gimbal arrived for it. And there's like oh, we've got this video about how to install it, which is
The gimbal.
a
as
Chinese
well.
video of
Oh,
some stuff. And I said to them, oh, this is obviously pre-production. What documentation will you be giving users? And they're like, oh, none. We figured all the hobbyists would be just like know what they're doing. It's like, well, I
kind of
don't know what the
expected
flight
them to turn around
controller
to you,
is,
Kathy, and
or
say
what
what
any of the
you're gonna
connections
write.
are, or how I should set this up on my radio, or anything at all. So might you want to reconsider that? And they're like, oh, we'll have a think about it.
They're doing what they used to do to Andy RC, give him
Just
stuff,
wait, and you'll
make him
find
do
screenshots taken
it.
from your video with the video transcript published in a PDF form on their website in a couple of months. And
Yeah.
that'll be
So,
it.
Exactly.
this is pretty much why Painless has sworn off them, because they were like, I'm not writing their documentation for them. They should sort this out ahead of time. I thought because this company is selling these like $5,000 for industry, presumably it will come completely set up with this Wizzy controller, so you do all your survey work. But they then build a consumer one, and they're like, oh, you can figure it out, can't you? I'm like, no. so that's going to be an interesting journey. But they did send me two, presumably for the first one that will crash and burn. So,
Excellent. No documentation, but
one to figure it out, and then one to
the one to do
sort
the
it.
video. Brilliant.
Yeah.
it speaks a lot for the kind of cost of manufacturing versus the cost of documentation. Evidently, these are really cheap to make in factories, but it's really expensive to find someone who knows what they're doing to write a small paper pamphlet.
It would seem not that hard. I think reading between the lines and watching little bits of this video, where first part of the video is about connecting up an analog VTX, and then the gimbal says this is for walk snail, so confusion there. And then they're like, oh, before you can fly it with your regular controller, go into the app. I'm like, what app? And do the gyro thing. And then the app, I saw this little thing saying Pix4 on the side of it. So maybe it's got like a Pixhawk controller in there, which seem they do have these VTOL modes.
What was it called
I
again?
thought it was interesting. Sorry?
What was it called again? The Swan.
It's a Swan K1 Pro. If you look at their website, they've got a range of very expensive commercial ones that look exactly the same with super sensors and stuff, which I presume at the price of like $5,000 would at least come with operating instructions. And then
Swan
this one,
K1 Pro, $1,099.
yeah, this is supposed to be cheap. It's supposed to be like 500 or something.
500
But the interesting
bucks.
thing about it, as far as the VTOL goes, is that it doesn't have any flight surfaces. So it has 4 props on the edge of the wings, and then obviously it uses
Steven's immediately interested.
I was like, well, this sounds
That sounds like the
disastrous.
correct way
This
of
sounds as
running
hard to
it.
fly as my
This is
tricopter.
exactly
I'm
the
interested.
correct- We've been waiting for
Oh,
What happened there?
Stephen went mid-sentence. He got overexcited.
I think he's blown up his PC.
He's back.
Sorry, my
That
brow.
was the wrong window.
I don't know. But yeah, it sounds like the correct way of doing it. So forget those pesky servos. Just keep the motors idling, which are going to give you a modicum of lift, and then instantaneous response. You get up any speed?
I think the transition is going to be
1,000
interesting.
degrees of roll. Well,
He's gone again. I think that's the only bit of documentation it had was be at 50 meters before transitioning. So it gives you enough time to sort of go into a dive and come back out again, presumably.
Yeah.
Too much transitioning going on nowadays.
There's in other vaguely related news. There's
What, Frank? What?
a regular drone delivery service to the Isle of Wight starting next Wednesday.
Is it the post or is it the blood?
It's
This is down my way. Where's it going from?
It's going from Forley Waterside, which is the sort of housing development being built on the old oil refinery in the New Forest.
Oh, okay. So where Forley Power Station was sort of.
Exactly that. Yeah, that bit. Yeah, it might be the power station actually. Yeah, but that old industrial site that is being turned into housing, they're using that as the takeoff point on the mainland, and they're landing it in a car park in Cowes. Hopefully
Interesting.
not in actual Cowes.
I'll have to send Bruce over to video it or something. I'm
Yeah.
actually going over there in August, bank holiday, so I'll go and see if I can
Well,
find it.
they reckon they're going to be doing 5 trips a day, and it's going to be mostly NHS stuff, and then they're going to try and put some other stuff in there when there's space to sort of prove the point that it works.
So send in blood and maybe some chocolates.
Yeah, exactly.
Wasn't it several years ago? Wasn't there this TV thing where they said we're going to do this crossing from the Isle of Wight to Portsmouth using a drone and have it live? And basically, what they did, they had a bunch of guys in a rib with a control trying to fly this thing along, and then at the end of the program, there was no drone, there was no update, so we just assume it's in the water somewhere under the Solent. It's some sort of tricopter.
Sounds very likely.
I mean, it's not that far, is it?
Jesus, really?
It's an hour.
No, especially that bit.
high.
It's only like a mile from where it's essentially like Stubbington over to some part of Cowes.
Yeah,
Is it? Are they using a drone or a drone plane?
I can't remember actually. I think they're called something like Infiniport or something silly. I will try and find some details.
It'll probably be a plane, won't it?
I don't know. I can't see a plane landing in a car park that well.
Well, they catch them in nets, though, don't they?
Intelliports is the name of the company doing it.
I bet they catch it in a. I bet it's a plane. They catch it in a big
No,
net.
it looks like a big hex.
Oh, cool.
They're a little bit behind on the island. I'm a bit worried about the locals hitting it with sticks until it dies.
They are complaining that it's using a car park that they would quite like to park cars in. It's not entirely unreasonable, I guess.
That's an interesting one.
Oh, that'd be cool to watch.
Yeah,
on video.
yeah. I'm tempted to go and see it at some point.
Are you tempted to chase it with your LR4?
Well, yeah, that is also true. That would also be entertaining. I feel like
Chrome is not happy
probably
today.
best not.
It keeps just closing the web page and saying
keep
there's been
dying.
an error with the site, so I'm changing browsers.
Sometimes I do that and change trousers.
Oh, dear.
Sorry. I
Yeah,
just
there
read
is
video news.
Has anybody got big plans for the next week in terms of going outside and doing some interesting things?
Not with drones.
I was going to take some more micros out and mess around. Now I've got the boxer up and running and just try and. I was having a lovely time in the park. There's this path with some saplings planted along it, kind of like 3-4 meter intervals, and I just like going out slaloming along those. It's quite fun. Just go and do a few laps and zoom around with something that's inconspicuous and not too noisy or heavy. They're sub 100 gram, I think, those. So yeah,
Nice.
That's cool.
take those out around the park a bit. Not traveling too far because the weather's crazy, but a bit here and there.
It's nice now. Stop raining.
Yeah.
Stop thundering. Hasn't cooled down though. Still baking.
Yeah, it's a bit much.
I see Caroline. Has everybody seen Caroline's Batwing? She is 3D printed.
I've seen picture, but I haven't seen
I saw it
anything
in more
else.
pieces than it should be. I don't know what happened, but it looked like it's a back to the drawing board type of situation.
No, I think it's flown now. So she says
But
she's.
it flew, but I saw a picture of it on the ground in more than one piece.
Yeah, that was just a bit like energetic first. The maiden. That is the
Okay.
only thing I feel about 3D printed things out of PLA. They're a bit splintery.
It looked
Or
like
a
it
lightweight PLA
shared
that she's using. is
along
supposed to
one
be very
of the, because it wasn't printed as a single piece. It looked like it had kind of divided itself along one of the seams.
I mean, these
Fun all the
3D
same.
printed things.
Yeah, I tried a friend's one and it just, when it went down, it splintered into like 1,000 pieces. And then when we did actually get it flying, because he's like, I can't fly a plane, can you fly it? I was like, not very well, give it a go. We got it flying. I was like, oh, all right, it's working all right now. It's a bit heavy, you've got to give it lots of throttle. I said, do you want me to try like a loop or something? So I did. And it sort of went, and we saw this smoke go poof, like that. And he goes, oh yeah, I'm running on 4S, but it's only rated for 3S. It's like, okay, we've just set fire to the motor because of that.
Oops.
So it's still in my loft actually. I have to meet up with him again and get it flying again. But it was really heavy because that was standard PLA. I think Caroline's using lightweight PLA, which is obviously lighter.
I think people have kind of optimized the printing algorithms these days as well, so you could have a nice solid outer skin and a really not dense, sparse inner layer.
It does seem like a lot of hassle.
Frank,
as a printing aficionado, have you ever been tempted by this? Because it does seem much easier to get a piece of foam board and make 2 cuts in it and fold it together and go, done it.
I've looked at the timelines, and people talk about printing not just for days but for weeks, like just keeping that printer running constantly.
Do have stashed away from when this was what, before I got this place, it was what I was working on, was a belt printer so that I could have a continuous wingspan all in one print. I didn't quite. I got it to the point where it was printing. I didn't get to the point of being confident enough in it to start printing an entire wing in one day. But at some point, I'll resurrect that project and try printing an entire wing in one piece and an entire fuselage in one piece and see how that goes.
It's an interesting idea.
Should be fun.
Yeah.
Would be too scary to launch.
Well, no, because if you break it, you just print another one, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, I've just got a spare week.
Wait another 2 days, yeah.
And that was a hiding to nothing. They look very cool. You can make the most unbelievably cool shaped frames, but almost without exception, they just broke. Not even when crashed. Like, you'd fly a pack on them and be like, oh, well, this is great, and then land it gently, or what you thought was gently, and just find that one of the arms has cracked off when you landed it. So kind of gave up on that. And people said, oh, well, use TPU. That's a terrible idea, because you're just trying to fly jelly at that point.
Now that sounds fun. I now I want to build a completely TPU quad.
Sounds
just
like
have
your
to
trigger is. You just want flying jelly.
Yes, soft.
I just want to fly things that make me work really hard. Like, I don't want any of this, like, oh, this is flying now. I want, like, every time you turn, you're like, am I going to die? You know, one of my essential things to take to the field is a bin bag, I think.
In answer to Caroline's question in the chat, yes, it is Naomi Wu's belt 3D printer that I have in a box somewhere.
Hidden.
Yeah. Buried away. I've got to finish building the kitchen, okay? I've got most of the
3D print
the last bit, Frank. Is that the last bit?
Yeah. I mean, at least the last bit to all be vaguely presentable. I'm sure there will still be things where I go back and redo.
There's always things in your house that you want to change.
Yeah. But the kitchen is a lot of cabinets without doors at the moment. There's no workshop currently, so that's the priority. I can't.
Why do we need doors on kitchen? Just looks. I
can't get a workbench. I can't start messing around with 3D printers. I can't do any more of these projects until I've got the kitchen done, or it's never going to get done.
Then come on, let's do it.
The challenge.
So is Jack dying again?
He's dying even more than usual, I believe.
Oh man, that sucks. Must be hard dying.
Doubly dying, yeah.
Poor old Jack.
Does one cancel the other out and you're okay?
Maybe it works like that. Any of you guys flying this week at all? Got any plans whatsoever?
It depends. It depends how quickly I can figure out what's in that box and how it works. But I also got I got this new bit for the. If you guys remember, I OpenHD wing, there's this thing called the Oakin board, which this guy made, which is this little carrier board for a Compute Module 4. He's just made a new one called the Oakin 2, and Seed sent it to me, who are doing like the build and marketing for it. But it's got an HDMI port on it. So the idea is that's like a usable ground station, and it's got its own like regulated power supply, so it could cut down the complexity. So I have to slightly relearn OpenHD because it's moved on a bit since I last looked at it, and try and flash that to the wing and to the ground station and figure out how it works, and upgrade my version of iNav, because last time I crashed into a bush because what had happened is I was accidentally in like angle mode, and what happened is the IMU went out, so the artificial horizon went from here to here, and then when I wanted to come down and land, it was like, no, we're upside down, I should turn over, and then we crashed into a bush, and I had to get my brother-in-law to lift me up on his tractor to get it back off the bush, which was fun.
Best
So
bit
I
of
haven't flown it since then. Yeah, so I have to resurrect that and then figure out how to fly it and what to do with it and all that sort of stuff. I don't think that'd be, not this week because it's Friday tomorrow. Maybe next week if it all goes very well, which is unlikely.
Well, can we
Not one
all
of the big projects.
wish Jack a speedy recovery? He's put in the chat and he's really not well. So get well soon, mate.
It'll be good in a week.
It's got to be stream worthy by Sunday. So
Yeah,
That's true.
hopefully they just give him lots of drugs.
unrelatedly, yeah.
Like
Yeah,
drugs.
just have some of this. Yeah, all right. Looks like Stephen's computer's completely died then. He's gone.
This is weird. You'd think he'd just open a Linux shell and sort it out that way.
Just pipe the video feeds directly to the server. Find the endpoint.
No, Stubbsy says.
Is there any events coming up at the moment? It's summer, and you'd think this is when the bulk of them would be. I just haven't really seen much going on.
Yeah, there's like racing events going on. There's this Saturday. There's 2 competing ones. There's the SGDC, which I think is South Gloucester. There's the series number 5, the summer series race number 5. And there's the Scottish FPV Championship Round 5 BQE.
Mm.
Then there's the Wings over Pontefract Pandas wing race at the end of August, as Caroline is pointing out in the chat, I believe. And
Sorry, I've just read Jack's comment. You can't read it out.
Okay. And there's the BDRA Championships at the beginning of September, so it's not that long away, really. But yeah, that's the sort of the races going on at the moment in terms of
No freestyle events.
shows. I don't know about freestyle. Anything?
Is there
Anyone
even
know
any model
anything in the
shows?
chat? Drop us a link if you
Southern
know of
Modern
anything.
Show.
Richard Warwick saying Southern Model Show.
Yeah, that's the one at Headcorn, right? Is that going ahead?
Oh, I used to go to that one. I like that one.
I think there was a question about whether it was going ahead this year. It's looking like it is. 31st of August, possibly.
I quite like that one. I might go to that one.
southernmodelshow.uk. Yep,
Oh, okay.
that is selling tickets. Where's the chat?
I've flown there a couple of times. I've flown the X-Class there a couple of times, and I've done some night flying there. And I've flown when they do the They do like a fireworks display thing with the old planes and all that lot. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Does Tony put goggles on the dog when he flies? No, she's my spotter. So I don't cover her eyes up. She tells me if someone's coming. I normally a little yap. A ruff like that. Oh no, right. Someone's about. Then yeah. Speaking there.
Interestingly, looking on the Southern Model Show website, they've got listed at 2 p.m. a daytime pyrotechnic display.
That's the one. That's the one that I flew around and recorded. That's got some really good big explosions and stuff. Pretty good.
Is that like a wall of fire and stuff as well?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff that goes on. And it's pretty good. Bagzilla in the chat is saying it's 35 degrees here in Boston. Yeah, we've been about 30 in England today.
Most of this week, it feels like.
Yeah, she does love a kayak, yeah. And mountain biking. Don't you?
Is your wing race ready, Frank? Are you going up to the last of the wing races?
I don't think I am going to be able to make the last one, unfortunately, or the Pontefract one at least. I think I am going to be in a different country.
Ooh, any country in particular?
Poland?
Not Poland this time. Romania this time.
Ah.
Yeah.
Fairly near the conflict zone.
Fairly near. Fairly near. But yes, that is yet to be confirmed. So we'll see what happens there.
Nice. And getting paid.
Yeah. Yep.
That can't be bad, can it?
At some point, I should just pay someone else to finish my kitchen.
Yes, good idea. But do it while you're away.
Exactly.
When you come back, the kitchen is done.
Be done, and I could just go nuts on all these things that I keep putting on like a no, don't do it yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Finished. Is that for Plains TV? Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah. But yeah, not yet confirmed. There's also, I've just seen at the end of September, there's the Wings over Park Hill wing race, which will be the final race. And that is vaguely in the vicinity of Andy RC country. So I'm wondering whether maybe we can convince him to go along to it. Would be nice.
Get him out.
Andy, if you're listening. That is on the 28th, 29th of September. It is the postcode is TF92QA. You can go to WRL UK and find that link. I will paste it in the chat.
Caroline said she's going to be there. Is that Stubbsy's stuff or not?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Cool. Shame you're not going to go up there and fly then, Frank.
Well, that one I will be going to.
Are you going to go to that one?
Yeah, that one I am not currently planning to be out of the country for.
Nice.
Mm.
I am. Well, I need
Where are you planning to be?
somewhere far, far away.
The moon.
That's quite far, but not that far.
Isle of Wight.
No, that's
Further.
just down the road.
Somewhere in between. Somewhere in
Yeah.
between the Isle of Wight and the moon.
Yeah, let's just put it that way. Yeah. That'll do. Right, can we talk for another 30 seconds?
Well, we should thank the patrons.
Thank the patrons.
Off-Axis is the first listed patron there, so definitely thank you to Off-Axis who will be seeing, speaking to, and recording with this Sunday. Link is back in the chat if you want to catch that. Thank you to all our patrons who get this show edited and onto all the podcast apps, so you can find us on Spotify and YouTube Music and SoundCloud and Podcatcher, just any podcatcher, Pocket Casts, all of those. Thanks to the patrons. Thank you very much. You have been listening to Let's Drone Out. You've been joined by everyone's favourite curry kitten,
Goodbye.
Jack's darling wife Tony.
You had to do it, didn't you? Au revoir.
And me, Andrew / Frank. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week, possibly on Sunday as well if you join us for that. Bye.
Bye. Get well
Bye.
soon, Jack. My adoring husband.